Hey guys, Rob with S&S Archery here. We're at the range here in beautiful Boise, Idaho. Today we want to talk about sighting in your black gold adjustable sight. I get a lot of questions on how to do this. It can be confusing if you put too much thought into it, so we thought we'd make a real simple 5-step video on how to get your adjustable sight dialed in with the sight tape. The first thing you want to do is prep, right? So obviously you want to make sure your sight is mounted to the bow. In terms of lining up your peep to the sight housing, I like to have just a sliver of daylight around the sight housing inside my peep. That way I know it's perfectly centered for every single shot. I do that in good light, because in lower light situations, that peep's going to get a little bit fuzzy. It's going to be a little bit bigger around. So the other thing I want to make sure I do is make sure the sight is level to the bow. I like to do that by putting my bow in a vise, making sure the bow itself is level. Then I'll put a level on the sight and make adjustments to the sight using the first axis adjustment to make sure that the sight is level. Once the sight is level to the bow, then I'm going to make sure that the sight ring bubble is level as well. All right, so that way I know that everything's ready to go. The other thing I want to do is I want to set my sight into its default position. Some guys like to have this default position with the sight housing all the way at the top. I like to have it where the sight tape bar and the pistol are flush. The benefit of this is that it allows my floater, in this case my floater is going to be 40 yards. I'm going to be able to dial that floater down past 40 yards, say 65, but I'm also going to be able to dial it up to say 22.5 yards. And now I can't dial it up if it's all the way at the top to start with. So we like this to be the default position. And then the third thing I'm going to do when I'm prepping is I'm going to put my 20 pin, my top pin, inside the sight housing where I want it, okay? I've got a 3-pin set up here, and so I'm gonna have it a little bit farther down in the housing because I don't have as many pins. I don't need to make that much room, and I wanna make sure pretty much everything is level or is centered. If I'm shooting a little bit faster arrow, that can also be moved down. If I'm shooting a little bit slower arrow, it can be moved up a little bit. You just kind of have to take these things in consideration. But the idea here is we want to put the 20 pin inside the housing where we want it to set us up for the rest of the sighting in process. So that's step one. Step two is we're going to use our gang adjustments, our windage adjustment and a vertical gang adjustments to get that 20 pin dialed in at 20 yards. Now I'm not going to worry about the other pins right now. I'm just worried about 20. And again, I'm going to keep the sight in its default position, and I'm going to use the horizontal and vertical gang adjustments to get that 20 pin dialed in. I've got my 20 pin dialed in. It's shooting great at 20 yards. The sight's in its default position. Now what I want to do is I want to take my pencil and I want to put a mark on the sight tape bar right where that pointer's at. And that's just a reference of where this sight is shooting good at 20 yards, okay? And that's it for step two. So step three, we're gonna move back to 60 yards and shoot, okay? I'm not worried about the other pins, I'm just worried about that top pin. So I'm moving the adjustment knob and moving that entire sight housing down to make sure that that 20 pin is going to be shooting good at 60. Now, there's a couple ways to get back to 60. You can just step up to 60 yards and let it fly and make adjustments for there, or you can start at 40 and work your way back to 60. If you don't feel like you're really accurate at 60 yards, it doesn't have to be 60. It could be 40 or 50, but you do want to have it pretty far out so that you get the most accurate sight tape possible. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot that out right now. I got her dialed in to 60 yards. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mark on the sight tape bar where the pointer is pointing at with a pencil. And the idea here is just to figure out what that distance is between 20 and 60 yards. And that's it for step three. Step four, this is the fun part. This is where I figure out which sight tape fits this particular setup. So, So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to compare my 20-yard mark and my 60-yard mark with the sight tapes. Okay, so you can see that the perfect sight tape right here. Now, where do I put it? So the indicator here is indicating my floater pin yardage. Okay, so on this sight, it's a 3-pin sight. I'm going to do 20, 30, 40. My 40-yard pin is going to be my adjustable pin. Okay, that's my floater. So when I put this sight tape on the bar, I want to make sure that that pointer is pointing at 40 yards so that it corresponds with my 40-yard pin. This is where it confuses a lot of guys. It doesn't matter where the 40 pin is at in the housing, as long as your floater is your 40-yard pin and you're pointing at 40 yards on the sight tape bar, you're going to be golden. Here's my sight tape. It's going to go on the sight tape bar. Again, with that pointer, even though that's my 20 mark, don't worry about it. We've already figured out which sight tape we need. We're going to have that pointer pointing at our floater pin yardage, which in this case is 40 yards. If you're shooting a 5-pin, maybe it's 60 yards. You're going to want the pointer pointing at the 60 yards on the sight tape. So we're going to go ahead and put that on right now. Just a little trick here. I like to get rid of the numbers on the right side, so I have that pointer pointing at the hash marks. Okay, again, 20, 30, 40. My 40-yard is my floater. I'm going to slide this sight tape so that the 40 is right there on the yardage indicator. And I'm just going to kind of try to slide that underneath there. That's it for step number 4. I've got my sight tape affixed to the sight tape bar with a pointer pointing at the yardage of my floater pin. Again, one of the benefits of keeping these flush is now I can dial this bottom pin up to, say, 25 yards, and I've got an exact yardage pin at 25 yards. Can't do that if I'm all the way at the top, so that's why we like to have that flush there. Okay, so now last step here is we're going to sight in the remaining pins. Sight's in its default position. My 20 pins are already dialed in. I don't have to worry about that. I'm actually going to be moving these bottom pins when I make my adjustments. So I'm going to be making adjustments to the pins themselves, not the horizontal or vertical gang like I did with the 20 pin. I'm going to be making adjustments right here on the pins. Again, 20, 30, 40. I'm going to get these bottom 2 pins dialed in at 30 and 40 yards. All right, guys, that's it. 5 easy steps. Shouldn't take you more than an hour or so to get dialed in. My pin's set up at 20, 30, 40. Got my sight tape fixed to the bar with the pointer pointing at my floater pin, which in this case is 40 yards. I'm ready to go. I do typically make some adjustments from here, but it's just very small adjustments, and I generally only make adjustments based on a group of 3 or more arrows. And that's it. Thanks, guys. If you've got any questions on this, please don't hesitate to reach out. Give me a call, 208-495-4222. Happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks for watching.